Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to the Cincinnati Chronicles. This is the fifth arc of our ongoing World of Darkness anthology series. We're playing Changeling the Dreaming. We're only one episode in, and already our motley of Kithane are getting up to all kinds of no good. And we will get to that in a minute of talking about what happened last session. But in the meantime, it's traditional around these parts that I get all the promo out of the way first. So let's do that. Let's do that exact thing. If you check below this stream, you will find a number of links. Links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching on one. Why not check out the other? Links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon, all of which do the things you might expect them to do. If you're interested in anyway, have a look at those. We're currently running 3 weekly series. Mondays is Warhammer Night. Tuesdays is currently host of Cincinnati Chronicles, hence why we're here on a Tuesday. And Wednesdays is Symbaroum, our kind of flagship series. It returned for the second part of the Throne of Thorns last week, the Witch Hammer. And a lot of fun it is as well. Come join us on all those nights. And also come join us monthly for our one-shots, where we do a bite size, if by bite size I mean like 5 to 8 hours worth of role-playing. Yeah, a one-shot story featuring various systems, lots of different types of genres, lots of different types of games. And the next one of those is coming up this very weekend, Sunday, August the 14th. We'll be live at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon BST with Night of the Hogmen, which is a scenario for upcoming Forged in the Dark game Teeth. It is a game of weird historical horror, which is exactly my jam, and I will be running it this Sunday. So come join us for that. Come join us for that. That may be the most on autopilot intro to any of these I've ever done. I'm not sure a single neuron fired during the entirety of the last 2 minutes. So that's just a taster of what's to come tonight, folks. That's Matt's firing on all engines tonight. So with that in mind, let me start bringing on my wonderful players where they can share some of this horrible load and burden from me. And we can talk about what happened in the first session of Changeling the Dreaming. And first off, you know him, you love him, you fear him. It's Chris. Chris.
You also owe him, for the record.
You owe him. You know what. Chris plays Inchin, young Sluar, kind of like noble academic.
Yeah, too cool for school, old before his time. Weirdly, somewhat androgynous, slightly spooky spider friend. And last week we kicked off with an invite to a courtly gig, a courtly meeting at the main. What's the word? It's not a trod. It's a
freehold.
A freehold. The main freehold in Cincinnati, this is in the Highfield Discovery Garden, which is a real place in the kind of, I think it's a wooded upland called Fontainebleau. And it is kind of like a children's park, slightly cursed children's park in real life.
I would say that Fontainebleau isn't in real life, but that is the name of the freehold in this. But the Highland Discovery Garden definitely is.
So we, I think I was there first because I lived just one neighborhood over, as it were, and even for an American city was within walking distance. So I walked across, and there was a very surly troll doing kind of bouncer on the outskirts of the red cap. Sorry, close though. On the outskirts of the park, kind of doing bouncer and being quite red capish about everything. They're very surly. And I got past them. I had an official invite, and the others did as well. Eventually, we all arrived in spits and spots. We did not turn up as a group, but the entrance to the freehold was a work of sheer genius. There's a little fairy garden with little fairy doors on the trees and kind of fairies welcome here signs and all that. questionable nonsense. But in the middle is a very large plastic tree with a door in the middle that's almost human size. And for us, that was we walked through there and passed across the threshold of realities and into a very beautiful formal garden and house, which was set up Fate style with tents and revelry and all kinds of different activities.
Absolutely. And there you were at the court of Lady Marcella, the satyr noblewoman who sort of rules Cincinnati from a Cathane perspective. And yeah, let's bring on our next player to see how the party proceeded. Let's bring on Holly. Holly is playing. Now, did we decide, Holly, whether it was Rosin or Roisin?
I think it's Rosin, but I'm
Rosin.
happy to be corrected by Chris.
Sure. But I think it's not the Irish spelling anyway, right? So I think we can assume it's a far-flung derivative. Rosin is a pisky, which is a very close word to pesky, for a reason. And yeah, how did the party go for Rosin and the others, Holly?
I think it went fairly well. So as Chris said, we arrived and there was lots of music and frivolity, and then I think Elena immediately went off to a Selkie show, which I wouldn't have been allowed in as a childling. Then I think Inshin got distracted by someone trying to sell them like a spiderweb waistcoat, which you were haggling for in the traditional Fey manner, as in not really paying with stuff. Then Lady Marcella called up the first of our party, which was Rhea, and the traditional thing to do is to provide a gift. So I believe that Rhea gave them a haiku little journal of haikus that she'd written in various places. Then a mysterious individual called Whitetail approached Rosin with a prank in mind. That prank went spectacularly, ended up with a very wet boggin in a fountain. Then I was called up for a limerick. That was my gift. Inshin, you gave them a collage of fantasy maps, I believe. And then it was Elena who had a painting of Lady Marcella and was very impressed with her. And then we wandered out, and then things started to get a little bit more interesting.
Dramatic. So,
yeah, exactly.
I think at one point Inshin saw some mysterious flying.
Yes, you saw some things fly overhead. Yes.
Yeah. But who knows what that is? I'm sure it won't come back later. And with that in mind, let's bring on our third player. Let's bring on John. John is playing Elena, the young and enthusiastic satyr, the enthusiastic artist.
I was going to say, surely all satyrs are in some way enthusiastic.
That's true, and often in one particular way. But we're not focusing on that in this story.
No, we're not.
John, why don't you tell us of the further events of the courtly gathering?
So, as everyone had an audience with the lady, and we moved on from the fate part of it. The lady was leading us through the house to the ballroom for drinks and dancing and other frivolities, when there was some kind of a hubbub, and two guards came forth, escorting a rather bedraggled-looking boggin between them. And they said a lot of things and seemed to imply a lot of history, like between the boggin and the lady and some other people. And it went over most of our heads because we're just young and don't know what's going on. But long and short of it, this boggin is from this other group that aren't really in with the lady, and something has happened, and he's asking the lady for help.
Yeah, like a knightly order of some kind.
And in the manner of a very distinguished leader, she delegated it to us four.
Yeah, to the four most useless people she could see at that particular moment in time.
The four most expendable people, yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's definitely another way of looking at it, for sure.
So we all would far rather go up to the party, but unfortunately we have to go follow this slight mess of a boggin to sort out whatever it is going on.
I resent calling Barnabas of the Brush a mess of a boggin. He's quite a tidy boggin. He's just somewhat bedraggled at the moment.
His van is a complete mess.
His van is a complete mess.
But that's going on to Inga's recap.
It is. And speaking of Inga's recap, here's Inga with her recap. Inga is playing Rhea, a typically traveling and storytelling issue. And yeah, Rhea, how did last week end?
Well, this very lovely boggin Barnabas took us in his van, which was filled with all sorts of nonsense, including a possum in a hammock, which is just delightful, to take us over to Loveland Castle. So what he tells us about what happened, and basically that the order that he's with has been like invaded. There was like a sort of mini siege at the castle, and they got kind of broken into, and pretty much everybody else has been cut down by some people wielding cold iron, which is a big no-no, very, very dangerous. We don't like that at all. Barnabas survived by hiding, and kind of obviously ending up being our messenger to kind of get some help. He tells us that they have some sort of menagerie of like really dangerous beasts, that other things that are of particular interest, or the things that they can't kill, so they sort of capture or whatever it might be. And those have been released, which also doesn't sound very good. There's another sort of honcho type, important guy called Sahari, who's not with them anymore, who was sort of normally their kind of big hero, and so he's saying maybe it wasn't such a good idea for so many of them to have gone out hunting, and they're maybe a bit more vulnerable now than they previously have been. And there's some sort of mysterious him or he that he keeps referring to that Sahari has stood up to before, but he was kind of the only one who really could. And I think it's the same guy who he is the guy you sort of refer to at the end as like the lame one or the Khan, who like, yeah, that he seems to be very dangerous somehow, but it's still a bit kind of mysterious of exactly what has happened or who he is or what he's doing. But ultimately he takes us here to the castle at Loveland, which is, a very traditional, classic kind of medieval castle. And yeah, it's our job to go in now, maybe with him to go sort things out.
Absolutely. And I think the only thing I'd add to that, just as a mention, is another member of the Knightly Order has also been mentioned a couple of times. A mysterious Azure Knight who was clearly, unlike the other knights, in the lady's favor, since there was a tapestry of him on the goddamn wall of her chateau. So something's going on there. And thank you for the raid and the resub, Night Bites, by the way, before we get fully fledged into it. We really appreciate it. So here we are. We've just got out of the van of Barnabas of the Brush. We are outside the real world location of Loveland Castle, also known as the Castle of the Rock. And Barnabas has kind of basically expressed that obviously this massacre has happened. He wants, he's going to go inside with you and show you the way to what's happened. And I think the general feel is that both Barnabas and the lady, while all these creatures have escaped from the menagerie, your main quest in this is to bring to justice the individuals responsible for killing the squires of the Knights of the Golden Trail. So, without any further ado, let's accompany Barnabas of the Brush into the interior of Loveland Castle. And Loveland Castle is quite quiet and empty. The interior looks, I suppose, more or less like you'd imagine it to, being a castle sort of built by an American medievalist. It has like an odd kind of clean new feel to it. You know, it was built through the 20th century. The overall feeling of it is quiet and empty. And as Barnabas leads you through various rooms, you see that most of them are full of sort of do we know what if I say medieval Americana, like that kind of Ren Fair medieval times kind of vibe to it, right? Kind of authenticity filtered through the lens of a culture that doesn't know whether it's authentic or not. In other words, with no intended insults to our American kind of companions, because why would you? Somewhat threadbare tapestries that look like maybe they were mass produced at some point in the past hang on most of the walls, alongside photos, paintings of and models of authentic European castles. Occasionally, you do pass an entire wall taken up with a huge chimerical painting or tapestry that looks grander or more impressive. You can tell that they are chimerical and not real, for want of a better word, because they give off like a scent of roses or a slight glittering, or they're just a bit too bright in the barely lit interiors of Loveland Castle. And as you stride through there, Barnabas seems to be leading you in a very purposeful direction. Are there any sort of questions you want to ask or things you want to look out for while you're on the way?
I'm very impressed by this. Never been here before.
Are you expressing that directly to Barnabas?
Yeah, just kind of whispering out loud, I suppose.
Sure, yeah. He kind of turns around and looks at you and says, "Oh, yeah, it's very nice in here, isn't it? I always like people seeing it for the first time. We work really hard on it, you know."
Cold in the winter, I suppose.
Yeah, so Harry never really did get round to installing some central heating.
Who did your paintings?
Oh, various people. They're mostly ones we've purchased from, artists who've seen these places, off in France and Germany and England. He sounds as if he's talking of some far-flung, fantastical realm that you could never actually go to.
Is it like dangerously quiet? Like, has it got that kind of apprehensive feel? Does it feel like we should be whispering or not talking that much? Or does it feel a bit like we're, is there like spidey sense?
No, it does feel a little bit like that, but you're not sure if there's any sense of like lurking danger, or it's just that Barnabas seems quite solemn and sad about this entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't feel too like imminently like looming, yeah, I mean, seeing some of these places, Ria might then sort of comment a bit on this one here or there, or oh, that bit's changed now when I was there last week or last year or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
What she likes and doesn't like about the different paintings, how they represent the vibe of the place, how she sees it, and so on.
Well, Barnabas definitely looks very impressed that you seem to have been to some of the places in these paintings and photographs. And you know what? Since you mentioned you were looking at them quite a lot, let's give you a little bit more information about all these things you're passing. You do notice that most of the kind of chimerical paintings or tapestries, many of them show a semicircle of knights with swords held aloft. And at the center of that semicircle, a smiling knight with his helm held under one arm. And in fact, anyone who thinks they are paying a lot of attention to the tapestries and photos can make this roll. But I definitely would like Inga to make the roll, at least specifically. And other people could roll wits plus alertness if they thought they might be noticing these things intently. That's just a regular difficulty. think that looks like John and Inga making the rolls there. How did we do?
3 successes for me.
Ooh, very nice.
You say normal difficulty.
I did.
1 success.
Okay. Well, then, let's split this information up a little bit. Both of you notice that smiling knight in the tapestries, who's often depicted as being kind of an older man, he very much resembles a man who is in several photos of the castle staff that are scattered around. And in addition to that, I would say, yeah, well, actually also for both of you, in the newer color photographs and fresher tapestries, he's portrayed as quite old, but there's definitely kind of still a youthful twinkle still evident in his eyes, and he has a very kind of warm, welcoming smile. I would say as well that from the extra successes, Rhea, you do notice on a couple of those staff photographs that they, when they have like people's names on a little plaque on the bottom of them, he is listed as Sir Harry Andrews. But these are mortal photographs, but he is listed as Sir Harry Andrews. So perhaps unexpectedly.
I'll point out as I'm kind of looking at things, and yeah, like, oh, I guess this is Sir Harry and or Harry. Is it Sir Harry Andrews?
Barnabas stops for a second and kind of looks up at the photograph you're indicating and goes, yeah, that's him. He kind of gets the felt hat off his head and rings it a bit and kind of even maybe dabs slightly at the corner of an eye and says, Lord, we all do miss him. He was such a grand man, really, really the finest. So, well, he would have liked all of you. He liked everyone, did Sir Harry. But, well, everyone goes sometime, don't they?
Seems like he went with a lot of great stories under his belt and a very lasting impact.
That he did. Anyway, we have to get on. Barnabas turns and carries on walking. He's now leading you up a kind of set of narrow but fairly well-built spiral stairs that seem to be coming up one of the towers on the corners of the Loveland Castle.
While everyone was being a bit arty, I would like to just have spent the time to look for any signs of struggle or forced entry or.
Sure, absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a perception plus investigation roll then, please, Chris? And I'll say it's quite dark in here because the sun has now set outside and there's not much like actual light in these rooms other than the moon, like the new moonlight through the window. So why don't you make that difficulty 8?
Oh no successes despite 6 dice.
Ooh, painful. No, you don't notice anything.
Wait. No, I'm sorry.
Wait.
Yes, I have. I get -1 difficulty to perception due to heightened senses as part of being a slua.
As part of
so
being
that
a
makes
slua.
it 2 successes.
Hey, you're looking for something creepy, and you're just creepy enough to notice. And you're going to kick me for this, Chris, because I'm going to say with your successes, you don't see any signs of forced entry or struggle.
Oh, I hate this game and I hate you.
But you can be sure now that there are none, whereas before you didn't know.
Cold comfort.
There we go. So you're being led up this spiral staircase, and you go quite a way. You think at least 2 or 3 floors before Barnabas leads you to a tower chamber, where a semicircle of simple wooden chairs sit below cases mounted on the wall with swords fixed into them. There are, as I say, the sun is now set. The room is bathed in a slightly surreal blue twilight from a series of narrow open windows behind the chairs. And contrasting with this is an open doorway of sorts on one wall from which faint yellow-orange light is coming. The doorway itself seems to be a stone section of the wall swung aside and is clearly normally concealed.
Is this chimerical, this door construct?
You're not actually sure if it's chimerical or not. It might literally be part of the building. Do you want to give me a perception plus kenning roll to see if you can tell if it's chimerical or not? He says, well, he furiously decides in his head whether it is or not. Oh, you're on mute, Chris.
I'm assuming this is standard difficulty, in which case 3 successes.
Correct. You know what? I'm going to say it is not chimerical. That is a real secret door.
That's actually slightly cooler. I will actually at this point vocalize that I don't see any signs of struggle. Were they invited in? The assailants?
Well, I don't know, rightly. It does worry me. I never got a good look at them. I think there were multiple of them because otherwise, well, I don't know. It sounded like a terrible calamity going on down there. I know that for sure.
So, Barnabas, walk us through it then. You said when we were driving over, you said that it was like a bit like a siege, but very quick. They sort of just bashed the door down. You didn't actually see any of this. Where were you? You were up here somewhere?
I was further up in the tower, and I heard such a dreadful business going on, and I heard all these cries, and well, Barnabas isn't much use in a fight, see? So I did what Sir Harry told me to do. He said, Barnabas, if there's trouble, you get yourself somewhere safe, and the lords and ladies, they'll take care of you. And that's what I did, but maybe I should have taken up a blade. I don't know.
Did you go around the castle once it all quietened down, or did you go straight? You knew the menagerie had been released.
All the Chimera, they came pouring out of that door. They did, out of the windows, out of the door downstairs, and I saw them fleeing right up from the roof. And then I saw figures, two figures coming out from the front of that doorway, and well, I crouched behind the ramparts. I did because I didn't want to be seen, and I knew if the squires hadn't managed to fight them off, there's no way old Barnabas would be able to. That's all I know.
Did everything go away in a single direction? Was everything just fleeing at random, or were they all going in together?
They mostly seemed to go off in their own different directions. I'm not sure they were really taking them with them as such, just letting them loose for whatever reason. But I mean, I heard what direction he went in. I say heard. I saw the trees parting.
The two figures that you saw, was it light enough to see anything about them, or just a silhouette?
I'm sorry,
What
I
were they
didn't.
wearing?
I ducked behind the rampart as soon as I saw people coming out of the front gates. I thought, I'm no use if they get me as well. Then I won't be able to go to the lady and beg for help.
You did the right thing, just as Harry told you.
Yeah, you did good.
Yeah.
I do hope so. And look, I know them that's down there. I can't face seeing them yet. So if I could beg off leading you down to the rock. Try not to disturb anything too much. I understand if you need to. I'll clean up after you, but I'll let you go down by yourselves if that's all right.
We understand.
I think I'll take the lead here, just kind of not wanting to dwell too long on this. It's an uncomfortable moment for me.
And on the note of that, if you're going near the door first, Chris, I'm going to carry your successes from that sort of investigation roll you had earlier over to this scene. And you do notice on the floor by that open secret doorway a few what look like bloody footprints, and one chair leg nearby smeared in blood, where someone seems to have kind of wiped their feet clean.
I'll have that chair leg.
What?
Just brandish it. Well, not brandish it, but just kind of like heft it like it's a weapon.
Sure, they're very loose legs on quite cheap chairs. Kind of like.
Oh, it's still attached to a chair. Oh, sorry,
it is. But you can but you can like unscrew it. They are very cheap wooden chairs.
I think I wouldn't want to break a thing in front of Barnabas, so I'll retcon. Yeah. I'll step back from that one.
No problem.
Rosen, how about you stand next to me? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that, please.
Okay, and then maybe I'll go in front, and if I see anything that you're not supposed to see, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Barnabas, this door's not going to close behind us, is it?
Oh, no. I'll be right here.
Okay. If it does...
If it does, I'll open it, but it shouldn't do.
Okay.
There's no kind of enchantment or cantrip upon it, my lady. It is just a door.
Fair enough. All right, then. Well, adventure awaits.
And with that, it sounds like the four of you are going down these spiral stairs into the rock itself that Loveland Castle is built upon, with Rosin at the back of the pack. This spiral staircase, again made of stone, is much more shadowy and off-kilter than the first one you came up. You get the impression it was built by the same person or people, but perhaps they did this one before they fully understood how spiral staircases are meant to work. It is lit at every other turn by a sputtering torch bracketed to the wall. As you progress downwards, the sounds of Loveland Town recede behind you, and a soft stillness is almost palpable. As you feel yourself getting towards the base of the stairs, you see, like, it seems to be darkening and widening out at the base as you're going down these last couple of rounds. And I would like all of you, please, to roll perception plus alertness. Difficulty 8, let's call it. Apart from for Chris, obviously. One. What else we got? 1. Okay, so everyone but Rosin, as you're getting towards the bottom of the stairs, you are accosted by let's actually, there's 2 smells, but everyone only got 1 success, so I'm going to roll for everyone individually as to which smell they sense. How about that? So yes, let's say that Inga, you get a sort of quite a powerful burnt odor, maybe kind of like a barbecue-y smell. And Inchin and Elena, you get a very rich, tangy iron smell.
Something's burned here, but yeah, caution, I think.
This might be a little bit grim. Blood has been spilt.
I'm assuming we perhaps want to leave Rosin like a turn of the staircase behind at this point as you're reaching the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Will the 3 of you take those few extra steps around, and you are glad that you left Rosin behind. because the room at the base of the stairs is quite a horrific sight. A large, ornate round table once occupied the center of this stone chamber, but it is now mostly burned and collapsed. A charred body lies amongst the wreckage, burned beyond all recognition. Around the table are 20 much finer wooden chairs than those above, some of which have been toppled to the floor during the conflict. Scattered around the rest of the room are what look like 4 other bodies. Boys and girls, all seemingly around 16 or 17 in age. They have been cut down with cold iron, and both their chimerical armor, which is battered and worn squires' chainmail and tabards for the most part, and their bodies have been slashed through cruelly. Now their Cathane seeming has been destroyed. They all just have the look of mortal youngsters. All of them have chimerical blades resting nearby, clearly having perished while trying to resist some opponent. There is blood everywhere on the floor.
Jesus.
I don't know what I was expecting to see, but... Oh, no, I didn't want to see this.
I was really hoping Barnabas was wrong.
There are some more details about the actual geography of the room, if you'd like them, unless you're going to investigate the bodies directly. Okay. At the back of the chamber, there is a large, thick wooden door with some iron bars on it, kind of like a very old-fashioned jail door, it looks like, where the iron bars are just in like a thing where you can look through. And on the ceiling above each chair is a fixture for a chimerical blade. Several of them are still occupied by fine-looking weapons, but most are not. A particularly fine sword sits over a higher, more ornate chair than the others. It glitters oddly in the light from the torches. On one wall is one very long, beautifully crafted tapestry that weaves back and forth, kind of like a kind of Bayeux tapestry style. It weaves back and forth across the wall, expertly stitched in what seems to tell the long tale of the Knights of the Golden Trail.
Does the tapestry, just from a not without going too much in detail, does the tale it tells kind of track with what we know of the order?
If you want to go up and examine it, you say without too much detail. Do you want the detail?
I guess more on the sort of the main story beats without kind of going into I'm sure they said there were only 3 knights, but here.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a description of the entire tapestry if you would like it.
Sure.
But it doesn't go into the number. I'm a nerd about it.
No, it's not like a serious investigation. It's just more of a
sure, just looking over it. Yeah, sure. Impressions. But before we do that, because it might be a little bit of a talk I have to do. Chris, what are you doing at this time?
So is the gore kind of eye-lining up? Is kind of the upper part of the room and the tapestry kind of clear from trouble?
pretty much. Like the 4 teenagers really have been kind of they've been cut down. It's not like a horrible gory bloodbath. It's just that these people have been killed, and that creates a lot of blood when you do that with a blade of some kind. If you walked into the room and looked up and around, you wouldn't see any signs of anything wrong.
So I'll gather the attention of Elena and I suppose Rosin, and kind of say, perhaps we can play a game where we must only look up.
I could do that, sure.
Okay.
Do not look down. Down is where the sad and scary things live.
Are
we
letting...
Yeah, if not stopped, Rosin is literally just going to enter the room like this.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you remain like that, obviously you'll smell odd smells, and the floor will be a little bit splishy, splashy.
Yeah.
But other than that, you will, and occasionally you'll nudge something with your foot.
I'll try and guide her around.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm hoping that other people are going to guide me.
The room's quite large, so if guided, Rosin will not end up stumbling over any of the bodies.
I'm wondering if this might be a time to try a flying carpet to avoid walking through gore. But I don't know if there's, I mean, the tapestry, like that's too big for this kind of thing.
Oh,
right?
it definitely is. And it definitely looks rather special. And while we are talking about, let's talk about that tapestry. Let's give you the details of that. And it's very obvious, like, which way you kind of read the tapestry as it weaves around the wall. You note that, like, you see, like, you can very easily recognize the figure of Sir Harry in it. He's stitched in a very distinctive way. He's kind of the only knight who's never portrayed wearing a helm. It always shows, like, his kind of quite kindly face. And the adventures of Sir Harry feature often at first on the tapestry, including a section where he seems to be fighting mortals in military uniform. At one point, seemingly striking down a tank with his blade. Then it moves to what looks to be the founding of the Order. A portrayal of Sir Harry building up the castle himself by hand, and the establishment of a circle of companions who go on many quests. These seem to be largely focused around the slaying or capture of monsters, including an entire panel that looks really quite familiar to the scene that Barnabas described at the close of the previous session, where in some kind of jungle, Sir Harry stands defiant against a flame-like blur moving through dense trees. There are more quests detailed after this, but they slowly stop showing the figure of Sir Harry. Towards what must have been the end of his life, he's shown training a younger but towering figure in white and gold armor. They seem to set off on a search for a sapphire blade, but the younger figure returns with both the blade and Sir Harry's still form in his arms. Portrayed with great sadness, there is a funeral for Sir Harry, and then a series of panels showing the white and gold armored figure going on what seem to be very grand quests indeed, including one where he looks to be portrayed fighting alongside the High King himself. Shortly after that, the tapestry ends with a single panel featuring the circle of knights around the table. The towering figure with the sapphire blade is not among them.
The blade you described before as the one that was a bit more special looking than the others. Does that match the?
No, it is not sapphire at all. It is, chimerical steel. It looks like a normal sword, for want of a better word, other than a slight glitter and shine to it. It probably goes without saying that the figure in white and gold armor with the sapphire blade looks very, very much like the tapestry in the Lady's Freehold. So, what are we doing?
So there's another door here, isn't there? There's a cell behind this place.
Correct.
And I think
that door is ajar, by the way.
So I suppose I will say there is not too much we can learn from here. I suggest we see what damage was wrought in that cell.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing might look for is, is there any kind of direction, for want of a better word, to like the bodies? Like, does it look like they were fighting in a something that was coming from the cell direction, or like from back towards where we entered from?
I think that's quite a difficult question to resolve. So why don't you give me? I'm going to say it's intelligence plus investigation, and I'm going to say it's difficulty 9 because I don't think you're not exactly a battlefield archaeologist, so I think that's a fair difficulty for it. Don't forget your willpower if you really want an answer. 1. You get the sense that the fight came from someone intruding via the stairs.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll follow the others in to the cell, I guess.
So the that sort of cell door opens not on a cell particularly, but on what seem to be a rather sprawling set of stone corridors. And when I say stone, I mean these corridors look to have been carved out of stone. One large kind of streaked, slightly odd colored stone, a kind of granite shot through with streaks of white. Presumably, this is the rock that the castle was built upon, and this part of the castle, its roots run into the stone itself. As you step into here, why doesn't everyone give me another perception plus alertness roll, please? Standard difficulty. We've got 2 successes, 2 successes,
3.
1 success, 3. I'm not sure there's a huge amount of different information to garner here. So for what it's worth, you are all assailed by quite a lot of different conflicting smells. Not very strong, but kind of like they're drifting from you from further down the corridors. The closest comparison I would give, but again, not quite like that, and quite some more unusual sense flowing through it, is a zoo. A lot of very riotous, shall we say, earthy smells, together with kind of the sense of animals, but also oddly, kind of the sense of different greases or oils or kind of herbs of various kind. A real conflict. There's also a sort of low susurrus of noise in the near distance. Not anything, one thing that you can pick out, but like again, like almost like being in an environment like a zoo or a theme park or something. There's lots of little noises happening, and you can't quite pluck them out from each other, but it definitely makes a contrast to the silence of the rest of the castle.
Should we go back quickly and grab a blade or something, just in case there's any other beasties or something that come our way?
That's a great idea.
I thought probably not much use against the, whatever struck down the others, but if there's just some other, slower to get out some things, maybe it's, I don't know what I'll do with it. But...
Does anyone have experience with blades?
None.
Don't think anyone's put points in melee, right?
This will be my first swashbuckling adventure.
Inshin has some. Well, yeah, you squired, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I have studied the blade. I will go and see what I can rustle up. So I'll go and collect, if I can, 2 of the chimerical blades from the other room.
Are you taking the squire's ones or the ones that are kind of mounted to the roof above the chairs? For which, given your age, you'll have to stand on the chairs to try and reach them and grab them.
I think it's going to be the squire's ones. I don't want to...
Sure.
We don't have permission to touch the shinies. I am going to clean them up as much as I can, so I'm not handing people blood.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, none of the blades have blood on them.
Oh, that's actually a little worse.
Okay. So you can definitely find two clean blades. You also, I would imagine, do you want to pick, let's say there's 2 of them that aren't still being held, that have like scattered to the side a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure, you pick one that's kind of been resting among the ashes of the table, and another one from nearby where an individual seems to have been maybe cast aside with a powerful blow and has let go of their blade. They're both very functional. They just look like fencing blades, but they are real and real steel. They just look, slightly on the cheaper side maybe, and not very elaborate, but they are squire's blades.
I'll return with those and give one to Rhea and take the other one myself.
Absolutely. Okay, so I take it we're heading down this carved stone corridor.
Yep.
Okay. As you do so, and I will like condense this down because there are a lot of potential like things you could see in here in what very quickly becomes apparent, if you haven't guessed already, is the menagerie. But these sprawling corridors often lead to other doorways, all of which are ajar. Each room beyond those doorways is different, all lit by either more guttering torches or a strange whitish blue phosphorescent moss, or open stone shafts that seem to lead up to a starry night sky with a huge full moon. Which, after you've seen it a couple of times, registers with all of you. It definitely doesn't seem to be the actual Cincinnati sky above. These chambers seem to be set out as habitats for any number of inhabitants, from simple zoo-like environments to odder enclosures full of benches and miscellaneous piles of clockwork junk. But I'm assuming we're just proceeding through this until we find something that looks a bit more relevant or of note. Or are we conducting a more like in-depth search of each room?
My assumption is that actually, do you know what? Let's talk about this. So there was one, all of the Chimera left at once, but there was one they were looking for. So, and was this, Barnabas was saying this was the most terrifying.
Yeah, he said the most dangerous one.
Did he say that they were looking for them, or that they were just there?
I don't think, just for obviously speculate amongst yourselves, I don't think Barnabas ascribed any particular motive to them, just that they arrived, they killed the squires, and they let everything loose from the menagerie.
He said he didn't think there was any way that he could have communicated out with them, so it didn't sound like he thought it was a targeted thing, that he was just most scared of this him. But given how much he was focused on it and how dangerous he seems to be, maybe it was deliberate. It seems like there's got to be some sort of agenda. Who just comes in and opens up a zoo? Like, that doesn't make sense.
If it was deliberate, then why let loose everything else? I mean, I guess for a distraction.
It's a useful distraction.
They're still dangerous, and yeah.
So perhaps there is a hierarchy among these cells, because if Barnabas is correct about there being a great evil here, maybe that would require a great cell. So we should maybe rank the cells and find the scariest looking one and see what transpired there.
Kind of navigate forward, always trying to find larger cells or more fearsome.
Or more kind of, more fearsome, I suppose.
Sure, absolutely.
Can I also, just as we're going past the cells that we are going past, like, do they just, like, how do they look like? Do they look like that they've been, is it a sort of, they've been lockpicked? Have they been bashed open?
Yeah.
Is
there evidence of some sort of, how have they been released? If there's all this kind of magic or whatever protecting them.
All of the doors have obvious kind of like drawer bolts on this side of them, and also keys, kind of locked key, and all of those have been opened. So whoever did it clearly had access, either used some kind of complex cantrip to open all the doors, which isn't impossible at all, or they had the keys.
Okay, that's something to ask Barnabas.
Yeah, I mean, given how, we should probably ask him as well about how they recruit, or I don't know, how they vet their order. It didn't look like they'd been broken into, as you said, Inshin. And if somebody had keys or something, maybe it was an inside job. And it's a bit worrying that Barnabas is maybe the only one that's still alive. I hate to potentially get suspicious, but This feels a bit like a trap.
Oh, I'd love to get a little bit suspicious.
Oh, okay then.
It's the
I
best
mean-
Sluar thing that Chris has said. I love it.
He looks really sad. He looks really genuinely sad.
Mm.
But
And he
also,
does have a
But he
possum.
does. I was literally about to say that.
but also he's the only, we're down here and there's a door up. I don't know. It feels a bit trappy. But
I'm
it's
just gonna,
just part of our adventure. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine.
this might not work. Just give me a second. I'm gonna take my sketchbook out of my backpack, and I'm gonna take my fountain pen, open to a blank page, and I'm gonna flick the pen randomly at the page and see if I can discern any pattern in it whilst casting a cantrip of soothsay.
Absolutely, that sounds great. This is our first cantrip of the game, I believe. So let's look up the rules. So
There's
you
a
roll a
lot.
number. Yeah, you roll a number of dice equal to your character's art rating. So that's your soothsay rating,
It's sadly only one.
plus the rating of the lowest primary realm used. So what realms are you using for this? What are you trying to discern?
I mean, I'm trying to discern whether he's trustworthy or all
Okay.
he seems. So I'm guessing that would just be Fey.
It would be Fey, and it would also be Fey 1 because he's not a noble.
Right,
So he's a commoner. So as long as you've got Fey 1, that's fine.
Yep.
So what's your soothsay?
1.
And what's your realm? What's your Fey?
2.
Okay. So as far as I can tell, that's 3. And you don't have any nightmares, so we don't have to worry about that. The standard difficulty. Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it costs you any glamour to just use a normal chimerical cantrip. What does it have any kind of rules in the soothsay thing on the difficulty or anything?
Let me see. I'm sure it does. Realm select determines what omen is about. Usually fair act. Yeah. More successes, the deeper the omen may reach.
Or am I being silly here? And it says what the default difficulty starts as. Oh no! All cantrips begin with a difficulty of 8, and are then modified by various things. Yep. So your target's banality is definitely less. He's not. I don't think he's the target, so I don't think that applies.
Isn't he?
I don't think so. I think it's if it's targeting something, like if it's an attack or something like that. That's how I'd assume that. But anyway, the current location definitely does not have that. You are, in fact, in these corridors in a freehold. So that's
Fantastic.
knocked it down to 7. It's cast with a bunk as well. So I would say your little ink art thing. I think that's just a -1 because it's not kind of involving something truly outrageous or dangerous or public in any way. So I think that's just another -1. So that takes you down to 6. Also, do you know what the satyr's affinity realm is? I think it's nature.
I don't think it's summer.
Oh, summer.
Oh,
okay.
realm.
Realm. Yeah.
I really wish I
don't think it's Fey, so I don't think that it'll matter.
Affinity is Fey.
Oh, okay then. Then that's another -1. So that's what? Difficulty 5.
Yeah, sweet.
Is nature even a realm in
yes,
in this edition? It is, okay.
Oh, an 8 and 2 10s. It don't explode, but it's still impressive.
That is still impressive. So what does it say about does it say anything about this level of success in the soothsay thing?
It does. Let me scroll back to the pages. So 3 successes. So one It's lit in a weird way. What? Oh, okay. The seer may seek one clue about an immediate plan of the target or near future of an object, or one clue about the outward demeanor or court allegiance, whether they're lucky or ill-omened, or a clue about the long-term goal of the target or where the object will be in the future.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you flick this ink at this. Do you say it's like a blank journal page or something like that?
It's my sketchbook.
Sure, and you're just describe exactly how you're doing this.
It is. I will do it with a non-splattery pen here, but it's literally just like
splatting things out and trying to build some kind of like emergent Rorschach image from the.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the ink falls on the page, and before many seconds have passed, you find yourself looking on a remarkably clear sort of Rorschach inked images of Barnabas's terrible plans and intentions. It is an ink portrait of a hunched, sort of tired old man sweeping a corridor clear of dust and grime.
Well, now I'm more sad.
What a precious being.
I love Barnabas so much.
I think we can trust Barnabas, guys.
That's really good. Okay, then maybe somebody else was the insider. We should then. That's good. It's good. It means we can ask him when we get back about how they joined the order and if there's anybody else who might have had keys and all of that stuff. It's good.
How many squires should have been down here?
Yes, that's true. Actually, is everybody accounted for? That's a really good question. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I take it as we're discussing this, we are proceeding onwards. And I'm assuming you're just going to trust me to tell you when there's some. Are you looking in all the doorways as you pass them, right? So I can tell
glancing,
you when there are notable
I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah, enough to see if to check that it's empty. There's not something in there, and
absolutely.
If there's anything different about the way they seem to have been opened or any kind of lock. You know, if as Chris was saying, like if there's any more magnificent looking ways of that they were.
Yeah. So as you're proceeding onwards and you go past numerous doors, but the first chamber that draws your eye as to there seems to be something in it worth investigating is what seems to be a sort of small library type room with shelves full of books and scrolls, more than a few of which are piled up near a kind of rudimentary bedding, like a kind of big, pile of like bundled hay. What is notable, though, is that resting with his back against a bookcase is the pale body of another young squire, one of his bloody hands clutching a chimerical blade against his breast, and the other resting on a book simply bound in red leather.
Yeah, I want to go see what that book is.
Okay.
Almost squeaking with delight, I will go and survey this little library, the Squire's library.
Okay. Well, then, two things before we get to the Squire. Apologies if there's weird noises, by the way. My cat has decided to have a little bit of a cough. He's fine. It's fine. This happens. So the first thing you notice, Inshin, as you kind of browse the shelves of this room, is that every single one of the books and scrolls in this room is blank. And the second thing you notice, your eyes were drawn to the pile of books and scrolls next to this sort of bedding that's over on one side. It's quite a pile of books and scrolls piled up, and they all have what appear to be not insignificantly sized bite marks taken out of them.
Whoever lives here, I love them.
So Matt, is it? So does this look like this was also a locked cell? This isn't like a separate.
Yeah.
Happens to be
no.
It
was locked. It was definitely locked. Yeah.
All right. I'm not. I don't know. Injin sounds like this. This is someone who maybe had special privileges, but was still locked up.
I suspect that this is a librivore, or perhaps more accurately, someone in their final moments was clever enough to erase all the books.
Can I take the book that was being reached towards and try a cantrip? I don't know if this would work for something that looks like it's maybe been erased.
I would say that no. I did say every book and scroll was empty. No one has yet looked at the book that the squire was holding.
Okay, yeah. That I would have been for that one.
Just before you cantrip it.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll look at that one
first. Might be worth opening it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You can pick up the book, which kind of like, there's a slight thump as the boy's hand drops to the ground behind. It's worth noting at this point, in my head, I'm not trying to role play for Holly, but in my head, I am kind of imagining that the three of you are looking around this room and Rosin is standing in the doorway just staring.
I was about to say, yeah.
I had planned to, as soon as I see the dead body, just kind of body blocking. Like, let's play the eyes up game.
Okay, as soon as that's said, yeah, I straight to the ceiling, and I'm just like walking past the door and immediately walk into a wall or something.
Sure. Absolutely. And as you do that, Rhea, that book is the first one any of you picks up in the room with anything written in it. It's not printed or scribed. Instead, on a couple of pages in to the otherwise blank book, 2 words have been daubed, seemingly in the squire's own blood. The words are Melahan, that's Melehan, and Yasir, that's Yasir.
Do those names immediately mean anything to me?
They do not. Actually, you know what? I think one person can roll for this. I think. Are you mentioning what they do seem to be? You don't know the words. Maybe you can assume their names or not. Yeah. Inshin, do you want to give me a intelligence plus politics roll, please?
I'll also kind of bark. Don't just read aloud from books.
I'd say it's a difficulty 8, by the way. Intelligence plus politics. Inshin is the only noble, right?
Yeah. Can I also cast the cantrip now between the lines?
Yeah.
See the intended meaning behind things.
Absolutely. And while you just work, let's see what Chris's result is, and then let's 1 success. You've heard the name Yasir before in court. You don't know who it's attached to, but it's a name people talk about in not glowing terms. You get the impression this person was disgraced for some reason, but you don't know the story, and you don't know exactly who it was.
I will relay that. I'm also going to I'm literally going to steal a couple of the blank books and just put them in my backpack.
Sure. Are you trying to do this in a manner in which no one sees you?
Yeah, I think I'll get a bit sneaky about it.
Okay, then give me a dexterity plus subterfuge roll, please, as you get up to that. And while you do that, let's find out what's going on with Rhea's cantrip. So, what cantrip is this, Rhea?
It is naming between the lines. So it's just a 1 point thing. The first point thing in naming. It says the realm dictates the source of the message. The changeling would use props to read a book written in code, acted to understand someone speak a foreign language, Fae to unravel the riddles spouted by an ancient chimera.
It's definitely prop then.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely prop. I think prop just works on size and complexity of the item, right? I think.
Yeah, there's not really any other details about, like, it just says any number of successes allows the changeling to understand a written
Sure.
cipher or foreign language. Each success has an extra die 20 pool for contested actions meant to reveal the truth or see lies through the current scene. So I don't think any of that stuff's relevant. I think
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's just find then, if you go to prop and just make sure you've got a level that allows you to use it on a book, which you probably do.
I've got 1 point in prop.
Do we know what that signifies?
That is affecting devices and man-made items of all kinds. Prop. Actually, no, maybe not. Objects of all sorts on a single point in prop is only ornate garb. Changeling may target anything that's commonly worn or being currently used as clothing or a body decoration.
Yeah, I think it's like simple one material items. Is sort of the rough idea behind it. So I'm not sure you can use it on the book.
Yeah.
That's the thing about cantrips. They can be very specifically powerful, but it's super awkward to have the right combination of things for them to work all the time, which honestly I quite like.
To boost.
Yeah. I'm exactly getting onto this. So just because you have a point of you don't have the right realms doesn't mean you can't do it. It just makes it more costly to do so. So what it means is you're casting a weird cantrip. So to cast a weird cantrip, you spend 1 point of glamour. And then if you're using a realm or a level of a realm you do not possess, it increases the total cost of the cantrip by 1 glamour for each realm cheated. So in other words, this will cost you 2 glamour to cast.
I have got 1 in prop already.
But it's the level of prop.
Yeah.
So prop is being cheated to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So it'll cost you 2 glamour, but it's the same roll because you're still using prop and you have a lower level of prop. That's how I'm interpreting that anyway. So you'll have your naming plus your prop, and 2 glamour will be the cost.
Yeah.
You're in a freehold, so that brings it down to 7. I don't think there's any other modifiers other than if you're using a bunk of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, I just again in like one of my little notebooks, just put a simple bunk to write the words in over and over and over again in like a sort of a swirled kind of pattern, almost like almost kind of decorative,
Yeah.
doodles that kind of go the way through.
Absolutely. I think again that's just a -1. So that will be I guess it is the issue affinity realm prop. I would be very surprised if issues wasn't seen.
It's not, no, but no, that is no successes.
Cool. So that was difficulty. Oh, what happens when you botch bunks? That's a genuine question. What happens when you botch bunks? I don't know. Especially a wild bunk. That seems like it could be exciting.
I'm sure I've read something about it, though.
Let's have a look at... There's definitely a section on weird cantrips and like how they work. Invoking the weird. Here we go. Does that say anything about botching bunks? I don't know. Not really. Maybe it's just open to interpretation. Sorry, I'm just going to look up botches.
I can have a quick look through it and let you know if there's something that you need to punish me for.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm just mildly concerned that it's going to be something I should be doing very immediately and very significantly. Oh, there's no real... That's odd. There's no real latent dex entry for botches, let alone botching bunks. Okay. You know what? I will just rule offhand that botching a bunk definitely has some impact. I think that's fair. So you know what? I'm going to say, this book that you've got, like in your hand that you've done this thing with, that book has just burst into flames.
No. Drop. Stamp.
You drop and stamp the book swiftly and with authority, but that is one burned, useless book.
Roll, Rhea.
Sorry, guys.
Rolling got her into this trouble.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. Need to practice that one.
Okay. I duck back out and say to Rosen, Rhea's okay.
Okay, that's good. I was a bit worried. Is there smoke coming out of the room?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit of fire. That might be our fault.
So I got like 4 successes on that dex roll to teeth the book.
Yeah, no one. In fact, I could say you use the cover of the botched bunk to slip a few of those tomes into your backpack.
I think, however, I will pick up the burned remains of the book, and I'm tempted to attempt the same because prop is my affinity as a literal bookworm. It's just whether or not
I'm going to say
one has this amount of capability, because it is. I've already got one good name of this, and I don't know if I can ask it who Melahan is, and I don't think that's something that can happen at Soothsay 1.
No, I don't think it is. I think you need to know who the individual is to pull stuff like that, not kind of pull an identity out of the ether. I'm also going to rule that if someone has botched a bunk kind of moving towards a general goal, it's generally not a good idea to try and push these things.
I will, however, take the book, the burnt book.
Sure, absolutely. So are we moving on to find something else of interest down here in the menagerie? I mean, there's lots of interest, but... well then, you exit from that chamber and carry on proceeding down these carved stone corridors, and you're going for what seems like quite a while, maybe 5 minutes or so of investigating various chambers, before, as you're approaching another door, and let's roll to see how many of you notice this. If everyone could give me a wits plus alertness roll, please. That would be wonderful. 2 for Chris. 2 for Holly. None for John. 1 for Inga. Botch. Well then. John.
Oh. No, sorry, I got 1 success and then that cancelled.
Okay. That's fine then.
Sorry.
Just a flat not success. Okay. Well, the 3 of you who did succeed notice that as you're approaching another door, a smallish head with a long, gnarled beard pokes out to see who is there. A quite wizened little man who looks maybe the size of like a 7 or an 8-year-old child peers sort of in an unfriendly fashion at you, and then swiftly ducks his head back inside the door. Doesn't close it.
So is this like another room or like another one of the cell?
Yeah, another one of the like they're all like cells down here. So
was that a Shanahy? Kind of start moving towards the room.
A what?
A soothsayer, a spirit, a knowledge spirit. Come. I'll kind of knock on the door and go, hello, greetings.
Go away. I'm busy.
We need your help. Can we trade?
Yeah. You don't hear anything more from inside the room other than kind of an odd sort of like a very light clacking noise, accompanied by a quite light sort of rushing noise, sounds right, but like the sound of things of very different textures scraping against each other.
You say the door was open?
It's ajar, yeah.
Can I poke my head round?
You absolutely can. Inside the chamber is the little man clad in an old-fashioned tunic of orange, brown, and green. He's sat among 3 huge piles of items. One is of needles, metal needles, one of straw, and a central one which seems to be a mix of the two. The little man is apparently laboriously sorting the central pile into the others. That is all there is in the room.
I duck my head back out and go.
What is it?
It looks like he's really busy sorting needles from haystacks.
I'll kind of knock again and say, there are 4 of us. We can help for a time if you will help us with some information.
Don't you dare! Go away!
So, have you heard anything happening outside?
Are you making? How are you trying to talk to this little man? Are you talking to him, or are you trying to are you trying to properly intrude into his consciousness, or are you just kind of trying to be very polite and light mannered?
I think I'm trying to intrude.
Okay. In that case, can you give me a manipulation plus etiquette roll, please? Let's call it a difficulty 8 for now.
5. Okay. Oh, damn it! That is a fail. A one cancels my only success.
Okay. What was the question you asked? Sorry. Did you see anyone?
Have you heard anything going on out here?
Yeah, some commotion. I'm busy. You can try again if you want.
Why is that dead? Was he locked up? Was he locked up? Why isn't he dead?
This door does have a bolt and a lock on it.
I have a suspicion he's maybe one of the inhabitants that won't leave until he's finished.
Should we?
Sorry to interrupt. I think I saw Holly trying to pitch him as something earlier. Were you intending Rosen to do something?
Just poke a head around the door and go, oh, that looks fun, and then start to try and go in. So I'll see what happens when I do that.
Sure. No, is anyone preventing Rosen going in? No, fair enough. No, you can go in and you can go up to him. He's got a little bit of an unpleasant smell to him, it has to be said, but maybe he's been here doing this for quite a long time. But yeah, he's just kind of like picking, very intently picking the needles and the straw apart.
Can I go and sit next to him?
Mm-hmm.
And
he
steadily reach my hand towards the pile.
Sure.
To try and help.
Sure. He, as you do so, if he attempted to stop you, would you try and? He's going to reach out for your hand as soon as he goes anywhere near that. Are you going to try and snatch your hand back? Go for it, or let yourself be interrupted by him. What do you think your approach would be?
You know what? I'm a pisky. I'm going to go and grab like a handful and then jog out the door.
Well, why don't you give me a dexterity plus larceny roll? And let's compete that with his dexterity and larceny, I think.
I have steady hand, so I'm assuming that will be.
Yeah, you know that can
Yeah,
you can explode that. Yeah. Difficulty 7.
Sounded like you just rolled werewolf dice there, Holly.
Yeah. This is 10 dice.
Mm-hmm.
She's very good at mischief.
However, on 10 dice, I did only get 2 successes, which is a bit pathetic because I rolled 2 ones.
Well, that little man got 5 successes, including some explosions in his dice pool. So you kind of reach out to grab that handful, and his little hand just like suddenly it's just clamped around your wrist with a surprising amount of strength for a little weird old man thing. And he just kind of like is still kind of like sorting, and you can see his hand is like shaking as he's maintaining concentration. And he goes, "Don't you dare." He's definitely only going to let your hand go if you cut.
No, I'll pull it back.
And he'll let you go at that point.
Should we just lock the door behind us?
I think that was probably what they thought.
Are you having one last go at this, Elena? Because you did sound before like you wanted to have another stab, or are we leaving this little old man to his let's call it a task?
I think,
or we can call it a gears, whatever we want.
I'm gonna have another go.
Sure. Same tactics of just trying to get through to him.
Yeah, except I think this time I'm gonna go around and like stand in front of him.
Sure, absolutely.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to. I'd like to interrupt you, Elena, and I'm going to take over with maybe a little bit more courtly decorum.
Sure. So you're trying to you're doing a more softly approach, right?
Yeah, I'm going to good cop it.
Okay. In that case, let's go for charisma plus etiquette, difficulty 7.
I think does this need to be a willpower? I think the dice pool's good enough. It's 6 dice. Ho! 3 successes.
Okay, so you're what's your approach? Are you kind of going in and just kind of being quite polite about it?
Yes, I think that'll be the approach. We must, unfortunately, good sir, insist, despite the graveness of your task, there have been murders, and we need your help.
He's kind of clutching at a finger which has like a little pinprick on it. He wails quite loudly and almost slightly deafeningly in the size of the chamber. He then garbles out some kind of very unhappy, loud sounding shout in a language none of you understand, and quite violently glares at you and starts to heap the straw and needle piles back together into the central pile. He says, "Lost count. You made me lose count. Oh, curse you, curse you. What do you want to know? And then leave me alone."
I promise we will. There was a commotion. Did you hear any of their talking when they came in as they opened the doors?
No talking, just the young ones wailing as the cold iron did its work. Then they opened all the doors. "You can go free," they said. "You can go free, like that's a gift, like it's not another kind of curse." And here I am. I just have my task. You understand? I have to complete this. And then when I've completed it, I get to take as many needles with me as I can carry. And then I go about my real work. And that work, Inshin of the Sluagh, will start with you. He jabs kind of a needle towards you and then hunches over and, "What 2. You get the feeling that you have just done something very, very foolish.
Ooh.
Morrison, maybe let's back out this way.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. He
Yeah,
doesn't seem very nice.
Looks like he's got a lot of needles.
yeah. I think the best way to make sure he doesn't get disturbed in his very important task again is definitely to lock this door behind him.
You have my name, sir. May I ask yours?
He ain't giving you his name.
God. And I don't think I have anything that can force him to do it. No. 2 points in naming does not get me what I need. I will leave and lock the door.
As you put it to, you can just hear 8, 9. I mean, he's going to be at it a long time, especially if every time he pricks his finger, he has to start again. There we go. That was a lovely little dark fairy tale in the middle of our Changeling the Dreaming thing. Yeah. Are we moving on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These knights are quite clever. They're locking people up. I mean, I guess the others maybe could have been something. If this guy doesn't even want to leave his cell once it gets open, that's quite cunning.
I'm in trouble.
Yes. More adventures await you is the correct way of thinking about it, I think, to just there was a very big stack of needles and things there.
Yeah, and he keeps, like, he must have been counting that for ages, and he's probably gonna have to start again at least an amount of times.
Yeah, you just need to make sure he doesn't get access to a magnet.
You didn't happen to leave something like that with him, did you, Morrison?
Thankfully, no.
No, he was counting them anyway. He'll still, even if he has a magnet, that'll take him some time. It's all going to be fine. It's all fine.
So, are we? I take it we're proceeding down the further down these stone tunnels. Yeah.
Yep.
So you, as you do so, the cells get larger or more intimidating or more weird, until finally you reach the end of what seems like a long stretch of tunnel deep into the rock. And at this very furthest reach of the menagerie is a colossal metal door secured with several large bolts and bars. Studs cover the surface of the metal, and from beyond comes an unfamiliar scent that sets your nerves on edge. No noises.
I was right. Is the door ajar?
The door is ajar. Actually, it's quite widely ajar. Are we taking a look inside?
I think I'm definitely taking a look inside.
Okay. Inside is what seems to be a large cave lit only by moonlight from those kind of shafts in the rock above. Scattered all over the cave floor are animal bones, some of them really quite large. The very rear part of the cave is dark enough that you can't like see towards the back of it.
Did anybody bring a light?
There are definitely torches that you could pull out of the brackets along the corridor behind you.
I'm going to grab one of those real quick.
Mm-hmm. We're heading into the den.
Yep.
Okay. You definitely don't get the sense that anything is in here, but you definitely, it still makes you feel quite nervous to proceed inwards. As you reach what seems to be the back of this large cave, the smell intensifies so as to become almost unbearable, and you find a veritable horde of bones, which are sort of piled up in a rough mass with an impression in the center of them, which it takes you a moment to realize is essentially whatever was in here sleeps on a bed of bones, a bed for something huge.
I presume this is the can or his bed.
Matt, can I have a look around to see if there's any other signs of, other than the door itself, anything else that speaks to how how it stays in here, like how it's kept in here? Any other kind of containment?
There doesn't seem to be anything other than like a very large, very thick metal door, and those shafts in the rock above. Like, given the size of this bed, like whatever is on there ain't getting through those. But that's it, really. Just encased in this cave with, like, the door is really very big. You know, not to bring us out of this IP, but we're talking Jabba's palace here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and the sleeping on bed of bones, does that ring any bells?
Not really, no. I mean, any number of fairy tales might have some nasty monster sleeping on a bed of bones, but nothing immediately leaps out. But given that you were looking around, why don't you give me a perception plus alertness roll?
And I think the kind of looking around, and also thinking back to the tapestries, does it, the size or anything like that potentially?
Sure, you could imagine that creature would perhaps be of a size comparable to whatever lived in this cave.
Yeah. One success.
Okay. As you're sort of like looking around, you notice that on the rear of the metal door are huge scars in great carved slices, as though enormous claws have on occasion decided to test the strength of the metal barrier.
And sorry, you said that from looking at the tapestry, like the creature, that this fire tree thing, is that what we mean, or something?
Yeah, sure. The tale of you think, as Inshin has already kind of alluded to, you think this. I love how we're dancing around this. Actually, by the way, I think all the players have made the connections already. But the Khan, the creature that Barnabas described, Sahari managing to capture, that was also portrayed in that tapestry. Yeah, you're pretty sure that the he that Barnabas was talking about and he was so fearful of is the Khan. The Khan was on the tapestry. You're pretty sure this is the Khan's den.
I'm going to give an uneasy to look to what I'm guessing is at least one goat skull lying around.
Sure.
And then I'm going to try and climb up onto the bed of bones.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could do that fairly easily. You just have to like scramble up the side of it a little bit. And yeah, you're there now. The scent here is really something else. It's not so much an unpleasant smell as it's just so distinct without you being able to really identify it. In fact, it takes you a moment to realize quite why it makes you uneasy. And it makes you uneasy in a kind of primal fight or flight way. Somewhere deep down inside you, you realize that this scent makes you feel like you're being hunted.
I say it's a pile of bones. Like, is there anything that kind of explains the scent of it? Like, is it bones like dry, or is it like, there's still bits of flesh or stuff?
No. There's nothing like that. You think it's just probably the scent of the Khan, and this is where he slept.
Smell.
So it smells like him.
Yeah.
Elena, throw down throw down some of the bones. Give me some handfuls.
All right. I'll throw down a few femurs and a few skulls.
Sure, absolutely.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. I'm going to start making a kind of a bone circle kind of on a patch of open ground.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get one of the smaller pieces of bones and start kind of maybe breaking it up, maybe with the sword, kind of smashing it into smaller pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to let's see if we can't get an omen.
Okay.
So
we're going for another cantrip. So what are we using? Is this Soothsay again?
This is Soothsay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the realm is prop.
I think it could either be. I think it could be prop. It could also kind of be seen, but I think if you're specifically using the bones, what is it you're digging for? What are you actually looking for here?
I'm kind of casting the bones in a hope of finding their next port of call.
Okay.
Like what was their direction?
Where are they going? Okay. So if you're using the prop for this, that's a difficulty 7 because you're in the freehold. You've made the bone
actually,
circle.
do you know what? I think I have a more important question I want answered.
Okay.
I want to know if they left with people, if they left in a group.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think that's fine too.
That will banish doubt.
Doesn't the realm apply to the question, not the prop? The bump,
yeah,
though?
You're right. So it'd be Fey that you'd need. What is the level of Fey that gives you access to Chimera?
I believe it's 3.
Fey 3. You got Fey 3?
I certainly do not.
Do you want to cast it weird?
I think I do. That's 2 points of glamour, yeah?
It'll be 2 points of glamour, yeah. So 2 points of glamour, and that's going to be a difficulty 6, I think.
And I think that's I'm going to put a willpower in as well. I think that's okay.
Sure, go for it. Yep.
And then the dice pool is the maximum realm. Oh, sorry, the maximum art.
The dice pool will just be Soothsay plus Fey, whatever your Soothsay plus Fey is.
Well, that's grand because right now my Soothsay plus Fey is 4.
So not bad.
Difficulty 6, 1 success, 4 successes.
Ooh.
Not difficulty 6.
And plus, oh no, you didn't use your willpower. 4 successes.
I did use my willpower, so technically that's 5.
Okay, there we go then. Here's what's going to happen. The Sluar, true to his Sluar nature, has laid down this circle of bones on the ground. And why don't you describe what you're doing within that circle of bones for me?
I think maybe kind of sitting down cross-legged, quite scraggly and scrangly. Maybe it's a little bit difficult to kind of exactly know how many limbs Inshin has when he's doing this kind of work. There's a bit of ambiguity there.
A little bit of just unpleasant yoga.
Yeah. And just a very traditional throwing of the bones on the floor, maybe once or twice, just to kind of...
Sure, absolutely. And I'm going to say this is what happens for 4 successes. Inshin, you feel yourself kind of almost lost in this circle of bones. They seem to almost start spinning around you, a perfect spiral of wonderfully brittle and flaky and hard and maybe even slightly tasty things. No one else sees any movement within it whatsoever, but Inshin starts to like contort slightly. As Chris said, you kind of lose a little bit of track of how many limbs and specifically joints in those limbs that Inshin might has. And then Inshin kind of almost rears up out of it, eyes rolled back in his head, and just pronounces in a calm, eerily calm voice, "The hunter stalks alone." You have no idea what you said, Inshin.
Kind of panting maybe a bit, kind of scrabbling my way out of the bone circle just to kind of rest for a while. And What happened? Someone tell me exactly what happened. As much detail. As much detail.
You said the hunter stalks alone. And then kind of...
Yeah, and you looked very weird while doing it.
Why, thank you, my dear. It's left. It is on its own. It is doing its own business. I don't know. They must have known what they were unleashing, but I don't think they were planning to master it.
That's... So, what is going on with all of this, then? We've got to figure this out.
Are we going after the two people that released them first, or are we going after him first?
Barnabas said not to go after him. Barnabas said to go after the people, and then we can go home. And then the lords will turn up, and they will deal with him.
I prefer that idea. That's much better to me.
But then what's the purpose of all of this? We haven't got any closer to understanding who has released all of these creatures or why. It is good to know somehow that they're not with the hunter. Maybe the hunter wasn't, or this Khan thing might not have been the real target.
My dear Rhea, waving the burnt book, we have both the names
of the people who we think have done it,
or at least their benefactors, one of which we know is a noble of ill repute. We have a rich thread of intrigue, but I think our next step is to maybe have a frank discussion with the innocent and delightful but proximate Barnabas.
All right.
Can we get out of here?
Oh yeah, you're not lost.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
I'm going to scramble down from the bones.
Okay. You
I think I'm starting to enjoy this.
Rosen, if you were stuck in a room like this, and if you did want to get a message out, can you see any way?
I'm just going to look straight up at the holes out of the roof. Is there any way that you would be able to determine where those lead out to?
Well, like I say, it certainly doesn't look like the night sky over Cincinnati tonight. So, and you're in a freehold, evidently. You felt that the moment you stepped in the menagerie. So, presumably, perhaps it leads out onto some kind of chimerical realm. Which, theoretically, if there's a point in that realm where you can look down and see inside the cave, then it's perfectly, explicable that a chimera or a fae could stand there and shout down here. It's possible.
Okay. So yeah, I'll basically say, well, I'd either shout up through one of those holes, but that doesn't look like it's anywhere near here, or I would just talk to one of the guards. I assume from all of these bones that they must have been feeding him, so people must have been down here fairly regularly.
All right.
Just a quick question. Cosmologically, is it a full moon in the real world tonight?
You know what? I can't remember from Werewolf, but I think we would have determined whether it was or not in Werewolf.
My angle here is the moon wrong? Because there's a full moon up the hole. You mentioned there was moons.
I mean, the moon is wrong because it's about 3 times the size of the moon.
But the phase...
I honestly can't remember, and I don't want to create a...
What was the date? What's the date of the day we're on? I've just found a lunar...
I have intentionally left it slightly loose to avoid this exact kind of gotcha. It's like mid-July.
But I suppose the core of my question doesn't really matter what shape the moon is. The core of the question is the moon a different phase from what it is expected to be in the real world?
I honestly couldn't tell you. And from that, Chris, you can assume that it doesn't matter.
Gosh. Okay.
It honestly, all I wanted to express is that this is not the night sky over Cincinnati. But I'm afraid I can't remember because we must have decided in Werewolf, and I honestly couldn't tell you what we decided.
I'm trying to remember whether anyone asked it at some point.
I recall it was specifically not a rune, so it wasn't full.
Okay. Well, if you recall that, I will believe you, and we will say that no, it is not a full moon in Cincinnati tonight. In Cincinnati, in this hemisphere, or even the entire... I can't remember how that works. Anyway.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Let's do that. So you retreat from the menagerie, have another rousing round of Don't Look Down as you tread through the rooms with the other squires. Are you replacing their swords, or are you taking them with you?
I'm going to hold on to mine.
Okay.
If Ingen's holding on to his, I'll hold on to mine.
Absolutely. You walk up that spiral staircase and out into that tower chamber. Barnabas is sat there. He's got kind of... he's sat on one of those wooden chairs and is just kind of clearly like waiting for you to come back. He's got he's short enough that his legs are kind of like swinging off the ground a little bit, and he's patting his knees nervously. He hops down and kind of looks across your faces at first for any kind of sign of hope, sees none, and just kind of takes that felt cap off again and goes, "Oh, those poor lads and lasses. What was to be found?"
Well, some good news. There was at least one cell still occupied.
That is good news. Which cell?
He wouldn't give his name. Needle and Hay.
Oh! Thank the High King. It was a worry to me that he would have got out as well. Terrible, terrible, dark creature he is.
So,
Such a sense of violent vengeance.
what? I'm not going to ask that. I'm not going to ask that.
What's his deal?
Oh, I won't talk of it to youngsters like yourselves. It would just leave you cold in your beds at night.
Barnabas, my noble friend, my kindly friend. Do you have his name?
Oh, no, it's not wise to try and seek or speak the names of those like he.
But I'm actually going to have to roll willpower at difficulty 8 to admit that I have made a very core mistake,
and
which is one of my fealties.
Yeah, that you can't.
Oh my
God,
God.
admit a mistake.
What would it mean if he said your name?
Oh well, why would he do that?
I'm just wondering.
Okay,
what if you just made
I
conversation
passed
with
my
him?
test. So Barnabas, sorry, to cut to the quick. There's been a problem. He's after me. He knows my name.
Now he's out.
Not right
Nope.
now. He's got a little bit of work to do first.
Oh, he's
But
And we locked the
after
door
that-
behind us.
We
Yes.
locked the door behind us.
he's
But
still in
when
the
he
cell.
finished,
Still in
he's
the
still
cell?
in the cell. For
Oh,
now.
then you have nothing to worry about unless he escapes.
Barnabas, please, my good friend, I need his name.
I do not have his name.
Someone must
Maybe
know. Please.
some of the Knights of the Order might do, but and as soon as they come back, I will send them to you. But don't you worry, he's safe in his cell.
Your
He-
ancient.
his brow kind of wrinkles with the consternation of, were the others safe in their cells? I will make sure he does not get out. I will tell you that.
Okay, that's great. But if he did, then how does he seek his vengeance? He seemed quite
Oh, as I
savvy.
say, Don't you worry yourselves with that. It's
you can't
best.
say.
It's best not thought of. It's best.
Oh,
It's. I
How
wouldn't
about
countenance it. You
we-
wouldn't sleep.
He is busy and he's locked up. Let's focus on the things that aren't busy and aren't locked up, and then deal with the other problems tomorrow.
For the record, it is very, very cruel to say, oh my gosh, there's this incredible, dark, and amazing tale, but oh no, I can't tell you what it is. That's just, oh my
Well,
god.
We'll
Milady,
ask again when the
I-
kid's not here.
I do not mean to be cruel at all. I wouldn't want to set you off to months or years of sleepless nights, worrying about if you'll wake up without. Let's not talk of this. Let's.
Inchin is
But
white
tell
as a
me-
sheet, which and it completely you cannot tell any difference. But I assure you, Inchin is white as a sheet.
As soon as Rosin sees that Inchin is like gone real pale, she's just going to offer a lollipop out of her little bag of sweets that she's got, and just go, "You don't
take the
look very
lollipop
well,
in-
Inchin."
I'll take the lollipop in the manner that a person who has smoked for 50 years would take a cigarette after witnessing a murder.
But regardless, if that he is all that remains, I am at least glad that he is behind a large and safe door. Still, I assume none of the 7 squires have survived.
How many bodies did we see?
You saw 6
5.
bodies.
6.
Is that plus the one that was in the other room?
Yes.
Or 6 including him?
You saw 4 bodies that had been cut down. You saw 1 burned body and 1 body in the room of the, as Chris rather wonderfully termed him, Librivore. I think that is actually a term from Pratchett.
Maybe Biblivore. Did
Maybe.
Pratchett use?
Bibliivore, yeah, whatever. But yeah, you saw 6 bodies in total.
Barnabas, we only found 6.
Oh, and did you look everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't search every cell top to bottom, but
You're pretty sure you would have seen another body.
no other bodies.
Oh, he kind of dashes off to a little side room for a second and comes back and proffers out quite a low quality color photograph of 7 teenagers stood side by side posing in chainmail and tabards. The note at the bottom says Knights of the Golden Trail Scout class of 1994.
So
You recognize 5 of them. You recognize the 4 of them who were cut down and the one from the library, the boy from the library. You don't recognize 2 of the others because you can't recognize the one who was burned. The ones you don't recognize are a somber-looking blonde boy and a dark-haired scowling girl.
So, point to the ones that we did recognize. These ones are all accounted for. One of them was quite badly burned. So, out of the other 2, I don't know. We were going to ask you if everyone was accounted for, though. So, it's good to narrow it down.
Well, please, I mean, maybe bring it back if you can, but take the photo. It might help. This very terribly serious boy here is Terence, and this young lady, bless her, she could be a bit prickly. That's Breya.
Do they have any connections, or that they of note in any particular way with other families, or?
I don't think so. Terence, he's of good blood. Is Terence? He'll definitely be a knight one day. He's of the she. Brea, a little less so. Sort of a gloomy girl, you could say. I suppose that's the way of her kind. I can't think of anything else. Slew R.I. I can't think of anything else that might. I don't know.
Any reason why that they wouldn't all be down there?
They were down there.
Oh, that Khan thing. Does he like eat people?
He could have, I suppose. He does leave an awful mess behind, though.
Oh.
Barnabas, on perhaps more academic matters. Have you heard of Melahan?
Who said that name?
No one said it. It was written.
Written where?
We think. Can you just tell us if you know who it was?
I know who Melahan is. He was a member of the Order. And a fine warrior at that. But then
Tall gentleman?
Quite tall,
I'm going to basically describe the kind of the golden guy who was kind of the successor to the knighthood that we saw on the.
Oh no! That's the Azure Knight. That's our champion. Was wherever he is. No. Melahan. Others would be quite amused that you confuse the two. Let me tell you, they weren't exactly friends.
So did Melahan die or leave the Order?
No, he was. The lad made some bad decisions. I say there's good in everyone. Even. And maybe it weren't his fault. He was pressured. He was just trying to live up to his grandfather. But, well, he was cast out of the Order a few years ago now.
Who was his grandfather?
Sir Harry.
Oh. Oh no. Well, that's tricky.
What about Injun? What about the other name? There were two names.
The other's accounted for.
Oh.
Well, I don't know who it is.
What other name?
Yes, sir.
We believe that the perpetrators were Melanin and. Oh God! Stall for me. I'm scrolling.
No, it's Yasir. Inga's already said it. It's fine.
Yeah, Rhea totally would have blurted that out. She wants to know.
Yasir.
Yeah.
That old bloody sorcerer. What? Oh, Manahan, what have you done? Fallen in with worse and worse.
I take it Yasir's not a former member of the Order then?
No. He was an old advisor of the lady. Gone 20, 30 years now. Cast out to exile. And if Menahan was trying to make contact with the Shadow Court, he'll have gone to him. Neither of them have any love for the Order anymore, I'll tell you that. Oh, Menahan.
So when you say the lady, you mean...
That's right. But she cast him out a long time ago now. I don't think the lady will have had anything to do with this.
So she and the Order haven't been getting on either. So there's an enemy of both the Order and the lady working. Is that right? Am I?
I think there's a lot of history at play here, milady. And I don't rightly know how to explain it all to you, but Menahan was caught having contact and ill intentions with some very unsavory, begging your pardon, unseelie peoples. Not just anyone with a taste for a bit of chaos and the roguish side of things. Darker, older things. The same kind of things that Ysir was brought down for 30 years ago. And if they've started working together with Ysir's magics and Menahan's blade, well, they certainly could have done this, I'll tell you that.
Do you know why?
Menahan, he was set to disgrace by the lady, and then the Order, we cast him out. He probably feels betrayed, but we had no other option. This is for honorable knights. I argued we should have tried to talk to him, but maybe the Azure Knight would have listened if he'd still been here, but he's been gone these last 5 years, and no one listens to old Barnabas. Not anymore.
These two, do you recall their kith?
Oh, aye, Menahan. He's of the she, like Sahari. Striking too. Long, blonde hair, rich clothes. Rides one of those fancy foreign bikes. The motorcycles, you know.
He's the sexy motorbike she.
I suppose that does describe him somewhat, yes. You've seen him?
Just to see.
Yeah. He... Well, I saw him storming out of the party earlier tonight.
Aye, that would be him. He's invited to all the gatherings to parade himself in front of the lady and her court. Sort of a trophy of what happens to those who have truck with darker peoples and places.
So he goes to the party. Something really annoys him. And then he comes here?
I fear that if Menahan did something like this, he will have been plotting it some time. He's a very clever and patient young man. But still.
All right, well, we know who's done it. I'm still kind of confused about why they've killed everybody here and then released out everyone in the menagerie. Are they just looking to sow chaos, or is there some sort of, perhaps the lady knows more if she's already had dealings with Ysir?
I don't rightly know, but the dealings with Ysir were 30 years gone. I think everyone had assumed he was, well, dead. Regardless, if it's Menahan and Ysir, it may be worse than I thought. You must find them.
Right.
And take, you have the squire's blades. That is good. seek vengeance on their killers. But maybe have mercy on Menahan.
Oh, Barnabas, as you said, this is a place for honourable knights. What we saw down there, that was not honourable.
I know, but for Sir Harry's sake, his grandson. Please.
Well,
And take my van. Go looking after them. There will be chaos across the city. All those chimera. Perhaps you can find some of them, and perhaps a trail can be found.
all right, and maybe we can look for the last squire.
Yes, but maybe they're with them, or they escaped, or something.
I had a question about that, Barnabas. Who had the keys to the menagerie? Anyone?
One of the squires will have done. They will have had them on them.
Oh,
Did any of the squires downstairs have them on them?
Yes, one of them. I don't know
No,
who had them tonight.
I'm asking.
You're asking everyone.
no.
You certainly didn't find any keys, but neither did you particularly rifle through the bodies.
We didn't look that close.
I think it's safe to assume that they could have been taken from somebody down there. But does Menahan being part of the order previously, does that explain why it didn't look especially broken into out the front?
He definitely will have known the way in.
Yeah.
And the way down to the rock. And even when he arrived, they may not have immediately thought they were in danger. He probably got the jump on them. I wouldn't have even thought that he would cold iron.
How can he even wield it?
I'll tell you this, milady. You don't wield cold iron lightly. Each time you take it in your grip, it steals some of your glamour, rips away part of you. It destroys you as much as it destroys your enemies. You must feel he has nothing left to lose. Quickly, you must go and catch them before they do something else.
We should probably tell the lady as well.
If you wish, but I don't think there's time for that. You must get on their trail.
He's right. If there are other chimera causing problems all over town,
well, then we need to figure out where they're going or what direction they've. We know they've gone, and we know they didn't go with the hunter. But other than that, we don't have any indication about which way they've gone.
Something tells me you'll find that trail. Those chimera, they're not gonna fade away into the background, that's for certain.
Does your van have a radio?
Yes, it does. It's very modern.
Good. All right, we'll turn on the radio, see if anything else weird happens.
All right. He starts to kind of shuffle off, sort of down, kind of taking you back down to the van. Are we following Barnabas and heading back there?
Rosin's just got one more question for Barnabas, so she's going to go. Barnabas, you gave us a description for Menahan, but not for Yasir. I've never met him. What would he look like?
Well, he was a spindly old thing. Those of your kith, Inshin, he looked more like a spider than most, I'll say that. Some called him that behind his back. Long locks of hair, greasy old beard. He was a bad one, you could tell even then. Robes and cackling and, well, he played the part, you could say.
Okay.
He leads you through the chambers and the corridors of Loveland Castle and down back outside, where now the street lamps have kind of come on more fully. So obviously it's kind of brighter out here now than it was when you arrived, and essentially a couple of hours ago now. And you can quite clearly see, which you didn't when you arrived, that when a motorbike peels away at high speed, it leaves very distinctive, tracks behind it, at least for a while, until it gets to like a settled speed. That's very noticeable on the tarmac outside the castle.
Quick thought on timings. Having seen Menahan coming out, does it? I can't remember how long it took us to get back to Loveland, and whether it's feasible that he could have gone from there to then do the attack, or whether it seems like the attack would have happened before he was.
You were at the party for a couple of hours. He could definitely have got to Loveland and carried out the attack, and Barnabas could have come back.
I might just check with Barnabas then around like when exactly it was that the attack happened, just to see if we can narrow down that. See if it was then.
It's definitely feasible. Like it does sound like if he headed straight here from Fontainebleau, he could have got here, done it, and left, and then Barnabas could have. It doesn't take long to get between Fontainebleau and Loveland.
Okay,
half an hour.
Okay, so but I mean, so if asking Barnabas about when the attack happened, then it happened like very, very recently. He wasn't kind of hiding.
No.
Yeah, we could assume
just from the interaction with him, you can definitely make a best guess that he was there, he came here, and then he left.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. As Barnabas goes, I'll take Herbert with me though, and he opens the side of the van and kind of lifts the possum out, who peers out at you, around at you all with a certain amount of disdain, and then kind of looks out over the kind of skyline of Cincinnati, just visible on the horizon with that kind of the light pollution of a city rising off it, and he goes, "Oh my, well, that might give you a direction to try." Somewhere on the horizon over North Cincinnati is the bright flare of a large building on fire, with a torrent of smoke pouring into the night, as if some kind of large explosion has happened. Just in case we wanted to place it in the context of the other arcs. And since that makes for a nice visual, let's end the session there. And we will head into episode 3 next week. Lovely. Thank you to all our wonderful viewers. Nightbite's Raid seems to have left a lot of people with us who enjoyed that. And being as I have to assume most of you hadn't watched our previous stuff, well done on sticking with that. If you have any comments or questions, please sling them into the chat and we'll bring up those to talk about them. In the meantime, promo stuff. We have a bunch of links down below, links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one, please do check out the other and give us subscribes and follows and ring the bell and all that good stuff if that's what you would like to do. We also have links to our Discord, to our Patreon, to our social media. If you're interested in those, please build up that interest by clicking on those links. We run 3 weekly shows at the moment. Mondays is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Tuesdays is the Cincinnati Chronicles, which for anyone who has joined us part way is a World of Darkness anthology series telling 5 tales in different systems set on the same day, the same year, the same 24-hour period in Cincinnati. We also have Simbroom on Wednesdays, which is kind of our flagship show. That's just restarted a new big arc. And we run one-shots once a month on weekends. The next one of which is coming up this Sunday. That's Sunday, August the 14th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon BST. We'll be playing Night of the Hogmen, which is a lovely scenario from a Forged in the Dark system, which is not yet out, called Teeth, that is nasty and lovely and exactly up my alley. So please tune in for that one. Is anyone here in that? John is in that. Is anyone else playing in that this weekend? I don't think so. No. I think it's also got Justin and Johnny and Steve and Pierre.
Yeah.
There we go. So if any of those are your favorite Telling Tales crew, then please tune in for that. Yeah, I think that's our blurb. So, comments and questions, please, John. 42. In real life, don't get into the van of the sketchy man claiming he is a knight in need of your help. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Even if he isn't a knight, I'd say,
Yeah, and also even if some lady tells you to.
Yeah,
I was going to say, to be fair, we only got in his van after a trusted adult told us he was okay.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, God. Bad life lessons.
Yeah, especially if that man has like a possum living in the back of his van.
I don't know. That would sway me.
I mean, I think it depends. I mean, if in the UK someone rides up and they've got a possum in the back of the van, I'd just be confused.
Yeah, sure.
But I would probably think more favourably.
I would definitely think of a person as being more kindly if they have a nice little hammock for a possum in the back of their van. But life lesson here, folks. Sometimes kindly people are still awful people. So there we go. Next, offer him a baby. Is that the little old man?
Yeah. He was giving me definite Rumpelstiltskin vibes as well.
I kind of wanted to evoke Rumpelstiltskin a little bit, and I'm quite proud of this. Entirely of my own devising. I just tried to think up something that felt like a little bit dark fairy tale, or maybe a little bit Hellboyish, even like that kind of like dark fairy tale sort of thing. But yeah, he definitely did evoke Rumpelstiltskin.
There's a great spin-off waiting in the wings there for the final the reconciling of that particular subplot.
The future story of that. Yeah. He's not a plot point. Great. I think we realized that, but yeah. And I love how you were trying to dig into the backstory of that, like a Chris with a spear. I was definitely not budging. I thought I was having far too much fun going, oh, you don't want to know.
That was so good. That was wonderful.
What else we got? Azimuth, hello, Steve. Come back with some more needles and straw. Yeah, just pile them on in there. Just don't let him out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Barnabas's reassurances that he wouldn't get out of the entire menagerie. Is just
right. Oh, nothing to get out of the menagerie. Yeah. Don't kick food. Welcome. At least he's not also got rats. I don't get that. Does anyone else get that?
Yeah. Morkborg.
It's your own character.
Oh,
Steve, can you put the link in the chat if you can find it?
Put the link to our highlight of that, which, and no joke, if anyone out there has or hasn't watched that highlight, I have watched that highlight now about 12 times over, and I still laugh when I watch it. It tickles something deep in my heart. I think it's the most I've ever laughed while streaming on this channel. Just can't. Yeah, it's funny. That's all I'm saying.
It's great.
Next, more don't kick food. Good old sexy motorbike. Yeah, absolutely.
Steve has put the link in the chat.
Great. Yeah, if you want a giggle at some ridiculous role playing, you could do worse. What else we got?
And just the last one.
Needle-based vengeance takes ages. Always the way. Always the way.
He's gonna cross-stitch you something fierce. It's gonna be cut. It's gonna cut you to your very core.
Now that's horror. That is horror. So there we go, folks. Thank you again to Night Bites for both the raid and the resubscribe. We really appreciate that. It was lovely to have a bigger crowd in for this. Cincinnati Chronicles isn't a terribly popular thing we do. This is one for me, for sure. This is like the nerdy thing that we do. But it was nice to have people on board. If you are interested in watching any more Cincinnati Chronicles, I think there's a lot to be gained from watching it from the beginning and seeing like these 5 stories interconnect over the course of the different arcs. They're all on our YouTube, so have a dabble if you're interested. And also, if you're interested, tune in again next week for episode 3 of our Changeling arc, which I have. Yes, sorry, it took me a moment to remember what I'd named it. It is, of course, named Burning Bright, which I think we all know, right? We know who the Khan is, and we know why the name of the story is Burning Bright, right? We all there? Yeah, we're all there. So there we go. And as is usual on Cincinnati Chronicles, just before we go, does any of the players have any questions about how nerdily I've incorporated Cincinnati or meta stuff into this in any way?
I would like to point out, as soon as the name came up, I did Google Yasir Green just to see if it was a thing.
No. Both those names do mean something, but that neither of them mean green. So, or a green thing. So, I'm afraid not. Okay, then. That sounds like us for the week. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks to my wonderful players, and we'll see you next week for more Cincinnati Chronicles. Goodbye, everyone.